Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is the first of five in our agricultural tourism series. This is Know the Law on the Farm Risk Management and the New York State Legal Requirements. We have two speakers here today, Kelly Young from New York State Department of Agriculture and Erika Malmgreen. Did I say that right? And you own Winterton Farm and Two Brothers Brewery? Two Two
Two
Farms
Farms
Brewery.
Brewery.
Two Farms Brewery. And they're going to present on knowing the law, one from more of the legal what the requirements are, and then the practicing as a farmer what those experiences are. Um, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I may not be able to answer them myself in the chat, but then we have them all saved for the question and answer part at the end of the workshop. Um, So there's five parts to this that are going to be online. I am also planning a conference in the beginning of April is what I'm aiming for. So please keep your eye out for that. It's going to be somewhere in Sullivan County. I haven't pinned down a location yet, but it'll be free to attend. There'll be a few workshop classes in the morning, and then we'll have a free lunch for everyone. And you get to network and meet other farmers and other people in hospitality who want to do agricultural tourism and farm to table kind of things. So it'll be really good opportunity and really fun. And the rest of the classes in the series that are online are already online that where you could register for them. Um, I think that's everything I need to say in the beginning. Can I ask Kelly to I'll introduce Kelly Young. I already did, but I'm going to say hi and and ask you to start your presentation.
Sure. Thanks for having me with you tonight. It's fun to share this information. Um, let's get that all up there. Great. So my name's Kelly Young. I'm a deputy commissioner at the Department of Ag and Markets. I grew up on an equine farm, so we did not do agritourism. And I will share with you that while I work for the department, I'm not an attorney. So feel like I have to give you this warning. I'm not an attorney. I'm not your attorney. You always want to make sure you are accessing advice from the professionals that support your farm businesses so that they can best advise you on what you need to do. But what I can do is outline the statute that is in place that was passed by the state to help protect agricultural tourism activities. So it's in the general obligations law. You don't need to know that. But what you need to know is that this law protects operators from being liable for an injury or the death of a visitor engaging in on-farm agricultural tourist activity as long as the farm operators do several things. These are outlined in the law. And don't worry, there's also responsibilities for the farm visitors as well. So it's a two-way street. But the farms need to post warning signs. They need to instruct visitors as to their responsibilities. You need to train staff, and you need to identify inherent risks and address the foreseeable risks of your operation and the tourist activity that you're inviting folks to participate in and of your site. So we'll go through all of these in detail. And I just want to emphasize the law provides a framework to think about the risks of your operation and allowing the public onto your farm, but the details have to be provided by you to fit inside that framework. So the law is not specific to your operation. You have to provide those specifics. It matters where you're located. It matters the equipment that you have in your operation, the equipment that will be used during the activities that you're inviting the public to participate in. Those details are something only you and your advisors can provide. So it's important to note here, a one size fits all approach is not going to be successful for you. It does not ensure you protection under the Safety and Ag Tourism Act. You need to be cautious about using generic signs, about using generic information that other farms or other states might use because it might not meet the New York State requirements. And because it's not specific to your farm and your activities, it might not provide you the protection that you're looking for. So, to receive the maximum protection provided by the law, farm operators should always work with their insurance and legal professionals to perform a risk assessment to identify the potential risk to visitors to your specific farm. And also, you should periodically review your operations to determine whether any changes need to be made to the signage, to the training, or to how you're actually operating to better ensure safety of the visitors and your protection under the statute. So I just, not to overdo it, but remember, this is very specific to your operation. Don't do one size fits all. That's not going to cover your backside. And also, review it once in a while. Go back, look at it. You might want to set a certain time of year that you do that because things change. We don't think about them. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wow, I'm doing something totally different than when I set up these warning signs. So those are some take home messages, if I can give you those. So let's go over the required signs and the required information that operators have to provide. You have to provide warning signs about the inherent risks relative to the activities and your farm operation and site conditions. If you're inviting folks to pet baby animals, you might want to note that baby animals might bite because they have teeth sometimes. You want to have a notice at every point of sale or distribution of tickets of the responsibilities of on-farm visitors. We'll go into more detail on that. You have to distribute written information directing the attention of visitors to the required warning to visitor sign. And that is the only language that the department has for you. It's outlined, it's very specific. You can use that. And it basically says, hey, you need to read this information about the risks of our farm. It's posted here. And these are the other things you need to know. So that's all outlined. It's kind of like fill in the blank for your farm operation. I place the Ag Markets guidance document in the chat. So you can link to that if you're doing agritourism activities. I think that's a great resource. It kind of outlines your responsibilities and what I'm sharing today. But at the very end, it has the language that you need to do for number 3 here. You also have to provide directional signage. You have to identify off-limit areas. And finally, you have to provide a notice of a right to refund to visitors who decide that they're unprepared or unwilling to accept the inherent risks of the farm opportunities or the duties of reasonable care that they have to maintain. So that right to refund has to be outlined. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So first, the warning to visitors sign. So you have to outline the inherent risks in your farm activities. So you're responsible for developing this sign, identifying all the risks. You also have to take reasonable care to prevent those risks that you can foresee, i.e. potholes, bumps in the field that you're asking them to walk through, things like that, right? You need to do your best. But you have to identify there might be bumps in the road. You might trip on tree roots if we walk through the woods. The law does not provide a definition of inherent risk, and there's no specific language, content, or format of the sign. So this is really up to you. The warning sign has to be posted at every point of sale or distribution of the tickets, whether on or off the farm. So if you're selling at a partner operation, they need to post that there. I had a question previously about if you're selling tickets online, you need to also consider that a ticket selling location that you need to provide this information. The signs should be very prominent. They need to be easy to read. Make sure you check on them once in a while to make sure they're still clean, there's not mud splashed on them, they're legible, the print hasn't come off, and they're up to date and current. Sorry, I've got too many windows open here to talk to you guys. Give me a second. And then finally, if you have multiple activities, you might need more than one sign. If you have folks going to one area where there's a bounce house and one area where there's, a hiking activity in another area, you might have different signs for different activities, whatever those are. Obviously, it's specific to your operation. Um, to create an effective warning sign for visitors, you need to make sure you cover the risks of being on a working farm. Just the fact that you're on a farm where there's equipment going down the roads, or there's other things that are happening, and there's workers that are taking care of animals or taking care of crop, you need to identify that that in itself is a risky activity. There's something specific to the risk of the agritourism activity, and if there's something specific to the site. It's been, when it rains, it might be muddy here. Work with your attorney and your insurance advisors to do a risk assessment. I mentioned that before. You need to use your warning signs to address the risks on your farm. A reminder that generic signs are not going to be sufficient. Be clear in your description of the risk of the activity. They might be obvious to you. They're not always understood by folks who don't come on farms. Some of your visitors are going to be like farm tour, agritourism, frequent flyers, and they're going to get it. But you also have to think about the folks that are going to come and they go, oh, wow, this is so cool. I'm going to try this. I've never been on farm before. And you need to think about what the things are that they should be thinking about, and they would have no idea to do that. So that's really a hard thing to do when you're so steeped in what happens on farms, and what the risks are. For instance, I grew up on a horse farm. You don't walk behind a horse. People who have never been around an animal don't think about those things, right? So you just need to think through really naive eyes about the risk that somebody might need to consider. Also provide instructions to people on how to minimize that risk, the things to do, to not do, and make sure your signs, again, are conspicuous and easy to read.
Like I said, I wanted to make sure, like, we talked about cheating is like a non-negotiable. So like when you said at the timeline.
Hey, Marilyn, you want to mute yourself, hon?
I think I just was able to do it.
The signage for visitor responsibility, the law requires you to notice at every point of ticket that what responsibilities visitors have. So they are also entering into this social contract with you. They have responsibilities. They need to exercise reasonable care regarding the disclosed risk. They need to comply with the directional signs. If you say do not enter, employees only, they need to not enter there. They need to remain in designated areas. They need to follow the posted rules of conduct and other verbal communications. And they need to not willingly remove or deface those signs. That is their responsibility. Or safety devices. Say you have an activity where they have to wear a safety belt or something like that. They can't undermine that safety equipment. You can use the rules of conduct that you set to control risk. So you might tell people only walk on this path, don't walk off the path, don't go through this part of the barn. You can set those based on the requirements that you want to have to reduce risk. So the law allows you to do that. So, excuse me, they can be specific rules for your visitors. Maybe it is don't run through this section of the tour or whatever specific. But you can set those. They can be communicated in writing and verbally. For instance, if you have someone guiding a tour, they can repeat what the rules are where folks are able to attend. I would say as a rule, as a best practice, it might make sense to ensure if you're going to rely on verbal communication that you kind of have a script. So this is what we say every time we enter this space, so that we're warning people of the risks that they're assuming, what their responsibilities are. So that is not a requirement of the law, but a suggestion as a good practice. And you should review these periodically so that you can ensure they remain up to date. You also have to provide written information that tells the visitors to read the warning and visitor responsibility signs. There's all these signs. It's hard to keep it straight. But this is the language that the Department of Ag and Markets provides. It's the end of the document that I shared with you in the chat. And you need to provide it to all visitors, and it directs them to read the other signage. And it's always a good idea to ask visitors if they need any assistance understanding this. these warning signs are telling them what the inherent risks of your operation are and what the responsibilities that they're assuming are. So there might be a variety of reasons that they don't understand it and they don't feel comfortable asking a question about it. So it's not a bad idea to prompt people, or if you're verbally moving them through a space, to say, hey, these are the risks that are ahead. Does anybody have any questions about this? And that ensures that everybody's on the same page. You also have to post a notice of a right to a refund. There's a couple provisions of this. You have to post it conspicuously where you sell tickets, but the right to a refund is conditioned on the purchaser declaring to you that they are unprepared or unwilling to accept the inherent risks of the activity or their responsibilities, their duty of reasonable care. And they have to be able to return the ticket unused and intact. So for some activities, there's not necessarily a ticket, but if they purchased a ride on a hay wagon, they didn't take that if they decided that that was not something that they could assume the risks of. So it is an independent sign requirement, so it needs to be separate than the other signage, but it is not a bad idea to incorporate it into the other signage that you may have. And then finally, directional signage. You have to post wayfinding signage, delineate the paths, the buildings, or the areas that are open to the public. Make sure you identify what is off limits, employees only, no visitors, a big X, whatever it makes sense in your operation. And it is your responsibility as the operator to develop this signage. Another requirement beyond the signage is staff training. Staff must be adequately trained if they are actively involved in the agricultural tourism activities. Adequate training is really dependent on what you decide is appropriate for your farm operation and the type of activities you have. That requirement is not outlined in the law, but it should provide those workers assisting in the agricultural tourism activities with the information and skills that would help them prevent visitors from being harmed by foreseeable and preventable risks. And the training should also allow them to give guidance and instructions to the public and communicate the risks of the activities and their responsibilities. So that's really them understanding the signage that you're already required to post and being able to offer guidance to the folks that are visiting your farm. So we said the operator has duties, right? All the signage is duties. So you have to post the warning signs relative to the inherent risks, and you have to use reasonable care to address foreseeable risks. So the law says consistent with the responsibility of a landowner to keep his or her premises reasonably safe for intended and reasonably foreseeable uses and users. It's like such legal language here, right? But what it means is I'm planning on having visitors on my farm. I'm planning on them doing this activity. I need to make sure that the landscape and the activities and the preparation is in line with my wanting people to visit and do these things. So you, as the operator, have that responsibility. You can't just post signs. You can't just reduce risks. You have to do both of those. If you do not, or if you fail to disclose a foreseeable risk and you don't take reasonable care to prevent it, you can lose the protection of provided to you under this law if somebody is injured because you failed to do those things. So that's the risk you run. You want to make sure you do those things so that you do get the full benefit of the law. So in summary, just to drive home all those points, to get the full benefit and protections offered by the statute, you have to make a thorough assessment of your agricultural tourism activity risks. You have to identify those risks and disclose them to the visitors that will be participating in the activities on your farm. And you should seek the assistance of professionals with expertise in managing farm risk so that they can help you conform your practices and the requirements of the law, periodically reviewing those so that you get the full protection. So that's my summary, Alan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We do have a few questions in the chat, but I think we should do the second part and then we can answer all the questions at the end, okay? Erika, are you ready? You're muted right now, Erika.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, now you're
Um,
ready.
okay, I am almost ready.
Okay.
I'm going to apologize now. I explained to them earlier that I'm working off a tablet because my computer broke and I don't have a keyboard, so I'm trying to navigate sharing screen and clicking things, but sharing's not turned on. Okay. Did it
Oh,
work?
hold on. Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Okay. Mm, okay. Is it sharing?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the keyboard? Should I move that or?
No, I just see your presentation.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. So my name is Erica. As Alan said earlier, I'm the owner of Winterton Farms and Two Farms Brewing. I'm just going to kind of reiterate what Kelly said, but just using our farm as an example of some of the things that we've implemented or experienced or are trying to mitigate before they happen. So sorry again, I don't have a, okay, it's not changing screens. Okay, hopefully it goes smoother from here on out. Okay, so this is why we do agritourism. This is a farm to table dinner right here. This is our customers, our family. The whole point of risk management is to protect not only our farm, ourselves, but also the customers who are coming to visit your farm. So it's just a quick photo. I need to get rid of this thing. Here we go. Okay. So not only are you an active farm, but you're now providing public experiences. Winterton Farms is a maple and lavender farm. We do produce and herbs. We make value-added products. We offer you-pick experiences. We do craft and educational classes. We offer wellness experiences. We have artisan fairs, harvest festivals, hay rides, scare trails, and just recently we opened a brewery on site. So we are not an event venue. We are first and foremost a farm that has now become an event space that is offering a space for the public to come. So the difference is that we need to protect our farm first, and then we can provide experiences to the public. So what agritourism risk really means is that you are an operating farm, you're opening your space up, you're providing a public attraction. Some places may offer food or alcohol. We do, it's not required, but if you do, there are a lot more risks that come with that. Um, Something to keep in mind is that if you don't plan for it, you're just relying on luck. It's better to plan for what ifs than to hope it never happens. So farming is not just about how do you farm safely anymore. If you're going to have agritourism, you now need to ask yourself, how can you farm safely with the public present? Because when the public comes, it doesn't mean the farm aspect disappears. It means that you need to now protect the farm, the people, and you are liable for people who are coming onto your property. So you need to explain to them the proper way a farm runs and how they can protect themselves as well. Don't assume that visitors understand what an electric fence is or understand what equipment parked over in another field is. They will go off paths. There will be children who run. They will do everything that you think that just because you have a sign there, they will still do it. So the signage is to protect yourself. You also need to tell them verbally when they enter, when you check them in. If it is, so for us, we don't always have ticketed events. And I know that's a big thing with when you have a ticket, you need to explain the rules there and explain the refund. Sometimes we are just open and people can come. So you need to be present when they arrive. And if it's not you, it's somebody, a volunteer or another staff who is telling them where they can and can't go. And then the signage is basically reiterating that. It's reinforcing it. So you know that you've not only verbally told them, but now there's a sign there. All right. So our philosophy is that it's better to be overinsured than not insured at all. Work closely with your insurance agent. Don't talk about what you're just doing today. Talk about what you plan on doing. What are you planning on doing in the future? Because there are different activities that are not just covered under your umbrella insurance that are going to require additional coverage. And if you talk with them as you're growing, they will expand your policy. So we talk to our agent about every 2 to 3 months on what we're doing. We have a review every 6 months. And I mean, there is multiple times that I'm calling my insurance agents like, oh, I thought of this idea, what do you think of it? Or are we covered? So for an example, different activities create different risk layers. So you pick workshops and classes, wellness events, festivals. These all require different type of coverage. If you thought about a you pick class, oh, they're just coming to pick flowers, but they're now walking your fields. There could be a hole, there could be a rock, they could roll an ankle, they could get stung by a bee, all of these things are risks that you need to figure out ahead of time and plan for them. And you also need to tell your insurance agent what you're doing, because a U pick is actually an additional coverage. It's not covered under a normal farm policy. Another example, we recently had our first Oktoberfest this year, and we were like, oh, how cool would it be to have hot air balloon? Yeah, like, okay. So we talked to the guy and he was insured. He showed us all of his paperwork. He listed us as an additional insured. We talked to our agent. He almost had a heart attack when we told him we were going to do hot air balloons. I think he almost fell out of his seat. Peter was like, oh my goodness, I don't like hot air balloons. Like, you're a farm. What do you no, we don't cover this. So he took about 2 weeks. He researched for us. That company was not willing to cover it. They were like, no, we're not used to this. We are not covering it. Now, we were covered as an additional insured under the operator's policy. But if something had happened, he was advising us that there are loopholes, there are things, and people can get sue happy. And if you want to be overprotected, you need to get a special policy. So we researched. Nobody in New York offers this. Apparently, it's not a big thing. I mean, there are hot air balloon rides around, but apparently, unless you're an operator, there's not a lot of outside insurance. So we did find a company, and we paid for a 1-day special coverage for a special event. Now, it was an $1,000 additional expense that we hadn't planned for. And these are certain things that when you are planning your events, thinking about what it's going to cost me to do this, and is it worth it? And while that was outside of what it costs to even just have the balloon, $1,000 in the long run, if something had happened, is way cheaper than having to pay lawyers or having to pay any type of, if you were to just be sued, if somebody fell out of the balloon or a tether ripped or anything, $1,000 in the long run just gives you the ease of mind, the peace of mind that you're covered. And no, nothing happened. It was fine. But if something had happened, we were covered. Okay, so as Kelly was saying, signage. I mean, it's winter, so I didn't really get all of our signage, but we have signs, I mean, everywhere for all types of things. We have a little play area. There is a sign as you enter it, what the rules are. Then there's a sign as you walk up that the children must be accompanied by an adult, that you're entering at your own risk. If you go down the slide, we're not responsible for any accidents. There's also wayfinding signs on how to get from the parking lot to us We're also down a half a mile road, and we are in the middle of nowhere. So people don't remember, they're like, they think they're lost. People coming from the city are like, oh my God, we're going to get murdered out here. We have signs every couple 100 feet, like you're going the right direction, go this way, brewery ahead, farm here, watch that turn. Oh, there's a puddle. Like it's literally like a funny way to get around to our farm. And then as soon as you get to the open space, there's signs pointing you to where the parking is, um, where to come in to because the brewery. Um, and I just threw in some other signs also about like right to farm. Mamakating, where we are, is a community that is a right to farm. So there will be at times possibly tractors or machine equipment going on. The beehives. I don't know how many times I've told people those are active bees. If you walk up to a beehive in the wrong direction, they can swarm you. I mean, our bees are pretty friendly, but I've had multiple people go up or try to touch the fence. So that sign is up there now about not touching the fence. Let's see what. This is just some additional signage. A lot of this is in the brewery. So once you bring alcohol, which is a totally whole nother realm, there's a lot of legality with that, and where you can serve alcohol, they can't go past a certain spot, noticing if somebody has consumed too much alcohol. But these are just different signs we have around the property. Okay, food. Food is another thing, and having vendors. We do not cook food. We do not provide food to our customers. We hire food vendors, and every food vendor must complete an application. And in that application, there's a vendor agreement. They must provide coverage of insurance. They must list us as an additional insured. They must show to us that they are approved by, they have all of the health department approvals, any food truck or county operating permits that are necessary. The same with when we have harvest festivals or artisan festivals, our vendors must complete an application. They must sign a liability waiver stating that anything that they bring in is under their own responsibility, and we're not responsible for any damage that may happen to any of their products. And that they are also insured, and if they are making food of any kind, again, have the proper paperwork for that. I do find artisans are a little bit harder to want to give this paperwork. If they are a seasoned market vendor, they probably have some type of market insurance, and they understand that. I mean, any farmer's market you go to, any flea market, you need to have this stuff. And it's not that we're trying to create a barrier or that we don't want these artists to sell with us, but it's protecting us and it's protecting them. And lots of times, if you explain that to them or you help them and guide them on where they can find I mean, I'm not an insurance agent, but where you can find market insurance, they usually will comply. Okay, food vendors. So we are a owner run and operated farm. We do actually not have any staff. Over the years. We've had a few staff and volunteers, but there's not any full-time staff here. But we do have events that are large events where we bring in volunteers. And it is very important that there is dialogue and meetings with your volunteers going over everything, all of your policies and all of your safety, defining roles, emergency procedures, because they are the face of your business also, and everybody needs to be on the same page. And don't expect them to know what your policy is or where something is. Leading up to events, we have multiple meetings, and each volunteer has a role or is in some type of category. They're either like check-in or helping with parking or selling merch or helping with games. So they all have to understand their role. They are also guided through the main building where we keep all of our forms and safety procedures. They know where the fire extinguishers are, where the first aid kit is. They also know that if it is a major escalated event, they are not to de-escalate an event, that they are to get an owner immediately, so that that way they are not held liable for anything also. Um, let's see. If there is an incident, document immediately, because your memory fades, paper does not. As soon as something happens, you start documenting the time, the location, who was involved, what happened, were there any witnesses, if necessary, photos. These are just examples of that in our safety binder. And if somebody, it's a checklist of what to go off, what to ask. What questions to answer. The more witnesses, the better. The more people who fill out the documentation saying, I witnessed this, I saw this, that's just going to help you in the end, because you may think nothing's going to happen from it. And then 6 months later, you get a phone call. Oh, I never wrote that down. Well, you can pull out, or I wasn't here that day. You can pull out your binder and say, oh my goodness, that did happen, or so and so was here and this is what they said happened. So it doesn't take much time, but it's better to keep effective records. That way you have just a safer environment and protect yourself and the customer. So when you do have big events also, you need to plan for emergencies, and you need to do this before the event. So, like with our Oktoberfest, we knew we were going to have a larger crowd. We created a larger parking lot. We only have one road in and out. How is a fire truck or an ambulance going to get to us? Does the people working in the parking lot understand that there's an access road that we have that can lead from the second parking lot? So there's maps, there's evacuation plans, alcohol service control. We do not allow any volunteers to consume alcohol while they are volunteering or sell alcohol because they are not an employee. So that is illegal. There's no alcohol at all with any volunteers until they're after their shift if they are of age. But also knowing, understanding if there is a customer who has consumed too much, again, they are to get an owner, and we would de-escalate the situation before a volunteer actually handles that. So luckily, we've never had to deal with this, but this is a big one that some people may not think about, a lost child procedure. It can be very scary in the moment. But this is something that if you are going to have large crowds and different areas and you are inviting the kids, that you should have some type of policy in place. What are you doing? Who are you notifying? Closing off all the exits. If you have people with walkie-talkies, any event we have, the owners and volunteers have walkie-talkies, so we can communicate with each other because we have 32 acres. So there could be things happening 10 acres away where you're not, and we don't have cell phone service. So unless you're on internet, you're not getting to somebody. So thinking about any possible thing that could go wrong and planning for it ahead of time so that you're not in the moment wondering what you need to do. Sorry. What I wish I knew before starting agritourism. So basically, this is just everything you should think of. Tell your first thing first, insurance. Get insurance. You cannot do anything with like tourism or inviting the public on without insurance. Tell them what you're doing now and what you plan to do in a year, 3 years, 5 years. See if it's even in your realm of like, are you willing to pay for that coverage? Signage is cheap compared to lawsuits. You cannot have too many signs, and they don't have to be those ugly signs. You can brand them. You can design them yourself so that it has your colors, your logo on it, so that it fits into your business as long as they are noticeable. You have to plan. You would think people have common sense, and most do, but not everybody has been to a farm. You have to plan for I don't want to be mean, but the stupidest person in the bunch. Like you literally have to plan for them to not understand that something that says it is an electric fence will electrocute them. Or something that says no climbing means your child should not climb on that rock wall. Or Like you have to plan for everything. And if there is a sign there, then you are covering yourself. Because if you didn't verbally tell them and you weren't able to be in that moment, if there is a sign there, you can at least say it was posted and that you gave them the warning when they entered your farm. So in our parking lot, we have a sign that basically says you're entering an active farm. There's farming equipment. Please be mindful of the signs that you see around. Stay on, provided paths. If you provide all this information and they still do something, then at least you're covered. Vendor agreements protect your relationship and your business. It's not, again, not a barrier. You're not trying to say, I don't want you here. It's just that it protects you. Food, if something happens with food, it doesn't stay on the farm. It goes back to that food vendor. It goes back to their liability. Document everything, even the smallest little thing. A big one is walk your farm like it's a first-time visitor. Walk it. If you were a guest and you were going to an event, do you know where to park? Do you know how to exit? Do you know where to enter the building? Where's the bathrooms? Where's the hand washing stations? Go to other agritourism places and see what they do. If you're planning on having animals, how do they, like, is there hay? Is there manure on the floor? I mean, I don't know how many times I've had people come and they're wearing high heels. Like I get it, it's pretty, but I like we do have when events go out and people do buy a ticket online, it is always stated that we are an active farm. Like we did a farm dinner in the lavender field. Wear appropriate clothing, wear clothing for the weather. Just always think of anything that a regular person who's never been on a farm wouldn't know, that you may have grown up with it, but not everybody understands that. And finally, if you think that it would never happen here, it will. At some point, plan for it. It's better that it never does happen and you plan for it than for it to happen and you're stuck in the moment and you don't know what to do. Risk management allows agritourism to exist safely. So basically, the whole point of risk management is to protect your farm, protect your guests, and protect your future. That's it.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, so I think that we are done for the night, and I want to thank Kelly and Erica for all of their knowledge and for sharing tonight and spending the time to do this.
Fun, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.